You know the feeling when something's just off? I got it the moment she said she had a corporate retreat coming up. It was the way her voice shifted, a little too casual, like she was trying to sound natural. Like a kid trying to lie without blinking. Just a quick weekend thing, she'd said, folding laundry and not looking at me. Team building stuff, you know. Zip lines, trust falls. The usual. The usual. Funny word, usual. When you've been married 12 years like I have, you start to notice that the usual suddenly becomes the unusual right around the time your wife starts getting new perfume and going to the gym 5 times a week just to clear her head. But I didn't say anything. Not then. Because men like me, we don't make scenes. We watch. We listen. We wait. Her name's Rachel. 36, brilliant, beautiful in that polished, efficient way that HR directors at Fortune 500 companies tend to be. I've loved her since I was 24 and stupid enough to think love was permanent if you married it. Our 2 kids, Mason and Ella, are 10 and 7. They were the only reason I didn't blurt out the suspicion that had been clawing at my chest like a stray dog locked in a basement. Instead, I kissed her goodbye on Friday morning, told her to have a good time, and even offered to pick her up from the airport Sunday night. She declined. Said she was taking an Uber. Of course she was. Friday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing her at one of those resort lodges, log cabins, cocktails by the fire pit, people getting a little too relaxed after the second round of margaritas. I imagined her laughing at someone else's joke, tipping her head back just a little too far, touching someone's arm a little too long. I told myself to stop, that I was being paranoid, that I should just enjoy the weekend with the kids and let her have her team building. But then Mason found something. He'd been using her iPad to play games and accidentally opened her messages. Kids don't know how privacy works. They just click and swipe. Dad, he said, why is Mom texting someone named Ben with hearts? I took the iPad, scrolled, read, and everything I tried to ignore came crashing through my chest like a freight train. Can't wait to see you tonight. You make these retreats worth it. Still thinking about that night in Chicago. The words didn't even sting. Not at first. They were too surreal. Like reading someone else's drama unfold on Reddit. But it wasn't someone else's wife. It was mine. The rest of the weekend passed like a fever dream. Cartoons played. Pizza was ordered. I smiled when I had to. But inside, I was unraveling, thread by thread. I didn't confront her Sunday night. I couldn't. Not yet. Because I wasn't done gathering facts. And because part of me, the quieter, colder part, wanted to see how far she'd go with the lie. How many more smiles she'd give me. How many more goodnight kisses? That's the thing about betrayal. It's never the moment it happens that breaks you. It's all the little moments afterward, when they look you in the eye and lie anyway. There was a time, not too long ago, when I believed Rachel could do no wrong. She was the type who remembered everyone's birthday, who color-coded the calendar, who made lists for her lists. She'd kiss me on the cheek while pouring coffee, always running 5 minutes behind, but somehow still in control of everything. She was my person. We used to laugh about how different we were. I'm quiet, methodical. She's sharp, social, always 2 steps ahead in any conversation. I used to love watching her work a room, the way she'd light up talking to people, how effortlessly she made them feel like they mattered. But now I see it differently. Now I wonder how many of those smiles were rehearsals for the one she'd eventually give to someone else. The signs were subtle at first. She stopped leaving her phone on the nightstand. Her texts became shorter, colder. She used to send those little check-in messages during the day, how's your Monday? Or don't forget Mason's dentist at 3. Then those turned into single-word replies. Okay. Sure. K. It's amazing how fast I love you becomes K. At first, I told myself it was stress. She'd just gotten promoted to senior HR director, longer hours, more meetings. She said they were flying her out to Chicago a lot to help with onboarding for the new regional execs. I wanted to be supportive. But supportive turned into invisible real fast. She started going to industry mixers, dressier clothes, new heels, a lipstick I hadn't seen before. I complimented her. I thought maybe, just maybe, she was trying to spice things up. Maybe this was one of those lulls couples go through after kids and bills and routines set in. Maybe she was trying. Now I know better. The first retreat she went to was back in February. It was in Denver, or at least, that's what she told me. She was gone 3 nights. Came back tan, glowing, talking about how amazing the mountain air was. She even brought the kids snow globes. But there were no mountains in the pictures she posted. Just cocktails. Hotel lobbies. A conference room full of people I didn't recognize. And then there was the name. Ben. At first, it was harmless. A coworker she mentioned offhand. Ben from compliance, she said. Funny guy. Total nerd. But then Ben started creeping into stories more often. Ben said this, or Ben made the weirdest joke today. It's always the ones they laugh about first. I did some digging. Didn't have to go far. LinkedIn gave me everything. Ben, 38, recently divorced, mid-level compliance manager. Liked basketball, hiking, and, judging by his very public Instagram, luxury hotel bars. Rachel had liked several of his photos. He had liked hers too, including one from that Denver retreat. It was a selfie of her in a cocktail dress, captioned, Retreat Vibes Cocktail Glass Sparkles. His comment? Best night of the weekend winking face. The emoji was what did it for me. That dumb little wink. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. You see, I come from a long line of men who believe in keeping your cards close to the chest. So I smiled. I kept smiling, even when it felt like my face might crack open. And I started watching. I started keeping track. Because I knew, deep down, this wasn't going to end with texts or Instagram likes. Something was coming. And when it came, I wanted to be ready. I wasn't planning to follow her. That wasn't the original idea. I'm not the jealous type, and I sure as hell don't have the energy to play detective every time my wife goes out of town. But there's a difference between trust and denial, and I've been living in denial long enough to know what it smells like. Sunday morning, I told the kids I had an errand to run. Dropped them off at my sister's place with some vague excuse about picking up supplies from a hardware store in the next town over. Rachel was still up at the retreat, due back that evening. But I wasn't waiting for her to come to me with another curated version of the truth. She'd left the retreat itinerary out by accident, printed neatly, complete with session names like Emotional Agility for Teams and Synergy Through Trust. Irony practically dripping off the page. I plugged the address into my phone and drove north a 2-hour stretch of highway, tall pines flanking the road, NPR murmuring softly in the background. The calm before the real storm. The place was nicer than I expected. A high-end corporate lodge, the kind with stone fireplaces, rustic chandeliers, and staff trained to smile just long enough not to look fake. I parked behind a landscaping truck and walked the long way around, sticking to the tree line. There was no plan. I was running on instinct. And instinct didn't disappoint. I spotted her on the back patio of the lodge, drink in hand, standing close to a man I'd never met, but didn't need to. Tan slacks, navy polo, lanyard clipped to his belt, and posture way too comfortable for a coworker. Ben. They weren't touching. They didn't have to. The body language said it all. Leaning in, holding eye contact too long, laughing like they'd done this 100 times before. I stood behind a pine tree maybe 20 yards away, breathing slow, watching. There's something uniquely humiliating about spying on your spouse. Like you become an extra in your own life, just watching the leads perform scenes you never auditioned for. After about 15 minutes, they peeled off from the group, walking together toward one of the trails that wound down by the lake. I followed. Slowly. They didn't see me. I stayed far enough back to blend into the occasional groups walking by with wine glasses and tiny plates of finger food. The resort had a whole ambience, like the kind of place where affairs are expected, even politely ignored. They sat down on a bench by the water, just off the trail. I crouched behind some brush and watched. No words reached me, but their silhouette said everything. She leaned into him. He reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. That's the image that locked into my brain, her hand in his, no hesitation. The kind of touch you don't give someone unless your heart's already left the room. I walked back to my car like a man coming home from war. No victory, just debris. I sat there, staring out the windshield, engine off. The trees swayed in the wind like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. I could have confronted her right then. Walked up, made a scene, demanded an explanation. But I didn't. Because this wasn't about catching her. It was about knowing. You can't fix something that someone else has already abandoned. And I needed to be sure. Back home that night, she walked in like she'd just returned from a team-building session in a monastery. Hair tied back. Soft smile. Said she was exhausted. I offered to heat up dinner. She declined. I just want a shower and bed, she said. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was broken. But the thing about pretending, it only works if both people agree to it. So I asked, good weekend? She nodded, already halfway up the stairs. Yeah, productive. Everyone bonded. Bingo too. I asked. That stopped her. Just a second. Barely even noticeable. Then she nodded again. Yeah, whole compliance team was there. Cool. Calm. Practiced. I smiled. Because I had my answer. Not from what she said, but from the moment she hesitated. It was Monday night, and Rachel was folding laundry while watching a reality show she'd once sworn she'd never waste time on. She laughed at something on screen. I watched her from the hallway, silent. You'd think betrayal would come with drama. Shouting. Tears. Slammed doors. But sometimes it just folds itself into a towel and hums along to bad TV. I'd been waiting. Watching. Not just her. Everything. Something wasn't adding up. She was too calm. Too content. People in the middle of affairs are usually nervous. Jumpy. Checking their phones every 10 seconds like they're expecting the sky to fall. Not Rachel. She was comfortable. That scared me more than anything else. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No contact name. Just a short message. If you want the truth, come to the Eastwood Cafe at noon. Alone. Don't tell Rachel. That was it. I stared at the screen for a long time, like it might blink and change. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I just put the phone in my pocket and told myself I wasn't going. And then, of course, I went. The Eastwood Cafe was the kind of place where no one looked at you twice. The baristas had man buns and tattoos of constellations. There were plants hanging from the ceiling and jazz playing quietly over the speakers. I took a seat near the back. Waited. At 12:07, a man walked in. Slim, about my age, maybe older. Dressed sharp. Business casual. He looked around, spotted me, and came straight over. Adam, he asked. I nodded slowly. He sat down and offered a small, awkward smile. My name's James. I used to work with your wife. Used to. I didn't say anything. He leaned forward, lowered his voice. This is going to sound insane, but I think Rachel's in trouble. And I think you're too. That got my attention. He slid a small envelope across the table. Inside were photos Rachel. Yes. With Ben. But not from last weekend. Different city. Different hotel. Different outfits. Same man. Same closeness. Months apart. She's not the only one, James said. There have been others. 3 that I know of. Ben isn't just some guy in her office. My stomach turned. He doesn't work for the company. He never did. He's a ghost. No HR record. No ID badge. Just shows up at these retreats, hooks onto someone, builds trust. Then, he didn't finish the sentence. I looked down at the photos again. In one of them, Rachel's head was on Ben's shoulder. Her eyes closed. She looked peaceful. I hired someone to follow him after the last conference. Not for Rachel. For someone else. Another friend. Same story. Same guy. Different woman. I clenched my jaw. What does he want? James hesitated. Money. Access. Sometimes just leverage. Emotional, legal, whatever he can get. He targets women with influence. Women with things to lose. And just like that, the affair, the one that had haunted me, shrank into something smaller. This wasn't love. This wasn't romance. This was a setup. She thinks he cares about her, James said. That's how he works. He makes them feel seen, chosen. And by the time they figure out who he really is, it's too late. He pulled out a flash drive. This has emails, phone records, surveillance from the hotel lobby. He's using her. I don't know if she's in on it or just blind to it, but either way, you need to see this. I didn't take the flash drive right away. I just stared at it like it might explode. James stood up. You didn't deserve any of this, he said. But you're the only one who can stop it now. And with that, he left. I sat there another 10 minutes. The weight of that envelope in my pocket like a stone. When I got home, Rachel was in the kitchen, talking to someone on speakerphone, probably about the school fundraiser. She smiled when she saw me, as if we were still us. But now I knew. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a game. And the woman I married? She was either a victim of it, or a player. I didn't sleep that night. I lay beside Rachel, listening to her breathe steady, unbothered, like the world hadn't shifted underneath us. Meanwhile, my mind was replaying everything James had told me. The photos. The emails. The recordings. The fact that Ben wasn't who she thought he was, or maybe, just maybe, who she pretended not to know he was. When the sun came up, I made coffee. Didn't speak. Rachel came down in a robe, scrolling her phone like always. Smiled like always. Kissed my cheek like always. Habit is a powerful drug. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, eating in silence. I watched her hands. Always elegant. Always poised. butter toast like nothing was wrong. I took a sip of coffee and finally said it. I know everything. She froze. Knife halfway through her second slice. No dramatic gasp. No denial. She just stopped. I know Ben isn't who he says he is. I know he's been with other women. I know he's using you. I know about the files you sent him. Her eyes didn't leave the toast. Then, very slowly, she set the knife down. When she looked at me, there was no shock. No panic. Just resignation. How long have you known? She asked quietly. A while. A pause. Then a breath. I didn't know at first, she said. I swear to you. I thought. I don't know what I thought. He said he worked in risk assessment. He told me he was unofficially helping clean up corporate messes. I believed him. I didn't say anything. Because belief is a choice. And she'd made hers. She kept going. He said he'd seen things, patterns, misuse of funds, executive cover-ups. He made me feel like I was doing the right thing. Like I was helping protect people. So you gave him documents? Yes. You gave him names? Her eyes darted to mine. Yes. And you slept with him. That one stung. She flinched. Yes, she whispered. There it was. The truth. Not dressed up. Not softened. Just a three-letter word that changed everything. I nodded. And then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because something in me finally snapped into place. That last piece of the puzzle I'd been turning over in my mind for weeks. I spent the last 2 months wondering if I was crazy. If I was imagining things. If I was the paranoid husband who couldn't handle a confident wife. She looked down, ashamed. I wasn't crazy, Ratch. I was just watching the show you thought I'd never catch on to. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she said, barely above a whisper. They always say that, I replied. You don't plan a car crash either. But you're still the one who took your hands off the wheel. I stood and walked to the sink. Stared out the window at the backyard. Same old bird feeder. Same old swing set. Same old life. I met with someone yesterday, I said. He gave me everything. Emails, pictures, even hotel surveillance. You weren't the first. And unless someone stops him, you won't be the last. I turned to her. She looked pale. I didn't know, she said again. But now it sounded smaller. Weaker. I walked back to the table, opened my laptop, and slid it toward her. Here. Look. This is what you gave him access to. This is what he's done to other women. This is who Ben really is. She scrolled through the files like a woman flipping through her own obituary. Quiet. Still. Breaking, silently. I need to fix this, she said finally. No, I replied. I need to fix this. You need to come clean. She looked up, confused. I don't understand. You're going to HR. You're going to report everything. Voluntarily. Before he goes public. Before it lands in the wrong hands. You're going to tell them how he manipulated you. What you gave him. What? Her eyes widened. I could lose my job. You could lose more than that. She blinked. And I saw it. That flicker of fear behind her calm exterior. Not because of me. Because she knew I was right. Do you still want to fix this marriage? I asked, blunt as a blade. She nodded, slowly. Then this is the first step. Truth. All of it. No more hiding. No more saving face. I'll do it, she said after a long pause. Good, I said. Because if you don't, I will. The silence between us wasn't angry. It wasn't even sad anymore. It was clinical. Like two people dissecting a patient that had already died on the table. But maybe, just maybe, we were still in time to restart the heart. Or at least walk away knowing we tried. It's strange how betrayal doesn't end with the confession. It just changes shape. After Rachel admitted everything, the affair, the documents, the manipulation, the house went quiet. Not just quiet like after a fight. Quiet like something had died. The kind of silence that settles in like smoke after a fire. She moved around like a tenant in her own life. Polite. Careful. Always a few steps away. We barely spoke. Every sound. The click of her mug on the counter, the opening of a drawer, echoed louder than words. I didn't sleep in our bed. She didn't ask me to. And I didn't explain myself. Because the time for explanations had passed. By the end of the week, I had a list. Not of punishments, of terms. Conditions. If there was going to be a next chapter, it was going to be on my page, not hers. I waited until Saturday morning. She was in the kitchen, sipping her usual cinnamon creamer with barely any coffee. I slid a folded sheet of paper across the table. She looked at it like it might burn her fingers. What's this? She asked, barely above a whisper. My terms, I said. She opened it. Full written disclosure to her company's legal department and HR. with me copied on every email. Complete transparency, phone, laptop, accounts. Nothing hidden. Not anymore. Weekly marriage counseling. Neutral party. Not one of her recommended professionals. She tells her family. No more secrets. If we're going to rebuild, it starts with honesty. She read it twice. Then again. I said I was sorry, she said. I heard you, I replied. This isn't about punishment. This is about reality. I'm not pretending anymore. She nodded slowly, lips pressed tight. And if I say no? Then I take everything I've got, the emails, the files, the drive, and I go to your company myself. And then I call a divorce attorney. Silence. Then she folded the page, hands trembling just slightly. I'll do it. No negotiating? No, she said. You're right. I owe you that much. Maybe she did. But the damage wasn't just in what she'd done. It was in how long I'd let it happen, how long I'd lived on the edge of suspicion, brushing it off like lint on a coat. That afternoon, she wrote the email. I sat beside her as she typed it. It wasn't easy to watch, but it was real. No spin, no vague excuses, just the truth. By Monday, her access at work was suspended. By Tuesday, HR had launched an internal investigation. And by Wednesday, Rachel had a mandatory leave of absence indefinite. That night, we sat on opposite sides of the couch. Not as husband and wife. As two people staring at the crater where trust used to be. You still want to try? She asked me. I didn't answer right away. Because I didn't know yet. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want control. I just wanted clarity. And maybe that's the hardest thing to find after something like this. Not justice, not forgiveness, but truth. The next day, we went to counseling. The therapist asked why we were there. Rachel said she wanted to rebuild. I said I wanted to understand what I'd missed. The therapist nodded. And are you both committed to honesty from this point forward? Rachel nodded immediately. I didn't. Not yet. Because honesty isn't something you declare. It's something you prove. And right now, all I have are words. You never forget the moment when you come face to face with the man your wife betrayed you for. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't even disgust. It was something colder. Something sharper. Like watching a thief admire his own handiwork in the house he just robbed, confident, comfortable, and completely unbothered by the damage left behind. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, the kind of place where people type quietly and talk like they're being recorded. I picked the corner table where I could see the door. He walked in exactly on time. And he smiled. Ben looked like he'd just walked off the set of some commercial for men's cologne, pressed shirt, perfect stubble, watch that probably cost more than my car. He spotted me, made a beeline to the table, and sat down like we were old friends catching up. Adam, he said, offering a hand. I didn't shake it. He let the moment hang, then leaned back, relaxed. I was wondering when you'd reach out. I stared at him. Not to intimidate him, that never works on guys like Ben. I stared to understand. To see what Rachel saw. He was charming, sure. Confident. But not deep. There was nothing behind the eyes. Just calculation. I know who you are, I said. And I know what you've done. Ben raised an eyebrow. That's a big statement. I nodded. You've done this before. Multiple times. Multiple women. Same strategy. Same act. They think you're listening. They think you see them. But all you see is leverage. He chuckled, like I just told a good joke. Look, he said, I'm not the villain here. Relationships fall apart all the time. People make choices. She didn't choose you, I said. You engineered her. He didn't deny it. So what now? He asked. You here to punch me? Give the angry husband speech? I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small voice recorder. Hit play. His voice. Recorded in a hotel lounge. Bragging about how easy it was. Mentioning Rachel by name. Laughing with someone about the documents she'd sent him. Saying she'd practically volunteered. Ben's smile dropped. I let it play a few more seconds, then paused it. There are copies, I said quietly. One with her company's legal team. One with the state investigator James handed it to. And one with me. Ben was still for the first time. This isn't a threat, I added. It's a conclusion. You're done here. He leaned forward, voice low. You think this ends me? You have no idea who you're messing with. I smiled. A real one this time. No, Ben. You have no idea who I was before all this. You thought I was just the quiet husband. The invisible guy. I stood, pushing my chair in slowly. I stopped being invisible the moment you became predictable. He didn't speak. I walked away without looking back. That night, Rachel was waiting at the kitchen table, fingers nervously tracing the edge of her teacup. "Well?" she asked. "He won't be back," I said. She nodded, but the tears came anyway. Quiet, slow ones. She didn't ask how I knew. She didn't need to. "I didn't do it for you," I added. "I did it because I needed to look that man in the eye and know I wasn't afraid of the truth anymore." "Thank you," she whispered. I didn't say "you're welcome," because this wasn't about gratitude. This was about closure. About standing where the fire once burned and realizing finally that the smoke had cleared. They say forgiveness is freedom, but sometimes, so is walking away. 2 weeks passed after my meeting with Ben. 2 weeks of therapy sessions, stiff silences, and half-hearted attempts at normalcy that fooled no one. Rachel tried. I'll give her that. She cooked more, asked about my day, even left handwritten notes on my nightstand, small confessions, tiny apologies. But I had already made my decision. We were done. Not because I couldn't love her again, maybe I could, someday, but because I couldn't forget who I had become while waiting for her to stop lying. And I didn't like that version of me. The man who doubted himself. The man who tolerated being an afterthought. The man who sat in silence while someone else rewrote the rules of his marriage. I met with a lawyer. Quiet office, efficient assistant, no nonsense. We went through everything: assets, property, custody terms. My lawyer asked what I wanted most. Clarity, I said. And then I told him. I wanted the house. I wanted full custody. I wanted Rachel to walk away with exactly what she walked into the marriage with: nothing. No revenge. No drama. Just balance restored. The paperwork was drawn up. That evening, I sat Rachel down at the dining table and slid the manila envelope toward her. She didn't open it right away. She just looked at me, searching my face for something familiar. "I can't fix what I did," she said. "I know," I replied. "And you don't want to try anymore?" I shook my head. "You wanted a fresh start. This is mine." She finally opened the envelope. Her hands trembled as she read. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded slowly, like she had expected this but hoped, somehow, that I wasn't strong enough to follow through. "I'll sign it," she said. And she did. 2 days later, she was gone. No dramatic goodbye. No packed suitcases in the rain. Just a quiet door click, a fading echo of footsteps down the porch steps, and silence. But that wasn't the end. Not for Ben. I still had the recordings. The emails. The timeline. And I wasn't done watching him unravel. With help from James and 2 other women Ben had targeted, I compiled everything. Sent it to his last known employer, the women's legal representatives, and a contact at the state attorney's office. Turns out, impersonating a corporate executive to solicit confidential information, that's more than just morally bankrupt. It's illegal. A week later, Ben's LinkedIn vanished. So did his phone number. But not fast enough. He was picked up in Houston on a fraud charge. Identity misrepresentation, corporate espionage, and unlawful data acquisition. Not flashy charges, maybe, but sticky ones. I watched the headline break online: "Man posing as executive under investigation in multi-state fraud scheme." There was no picture of him, but I didn't need one, because I'd already seen the real face. Not the charming smile. Not the tailored suit. The coward beneath it. That night, I sat on the porch alone. Just me and a glass of bourbon. The sky was clear. The air was still. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. Rachel hadn't called. I didn't expect her to. She was staying with her sister in another state, figuring out what came next. The kids stayed with me. They were too young to understand the details, but old enough to feel the shift. I kept our routine steady. Pancakes on Saturdays. Backyard soccer. Homework before dinner. And slowly, our house became a home again. Not because she left, but because I came back. The real me. The one who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The one who finally understood that strength isn't holding on. It's knowing when to let go.